Welcome back to the Manage Her, where we explore the art of leading, building, and thriving as women who manage businesses, families, and everything in between. Today's guest is someone who embodies purpose and prosperity with deep spiritual grounding. Spring Eatmon is a powerhouse entrepreneur, wife, mother of four, and faith leader who retired herself from her executive role at Kaiser Permanente at just 28 years old. She and her husband Curtis now co-lead Max Life Agency and the Legacy Lab, helping families and companies build generational wealth through alignment and purpose. She's spoken on stages alongside icons like Kobe Bryant, Les Brown, and Fawn Weaver. But what I love most about her is how authentically she leads with faith, family, and legacy at the center of it all. In this conversation, we're diving into how women can reclaim their relationship with money, why financial empowerment begins with spiritual alignment, and how legacy isn't something you leave, it's something you live. Let's welcome the incredible Spring Eatmon to the Manage Her. Thank you so much for being here, Spring.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here. This is amazing.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Well, since I saw you on stage at the Elevate conference, I was like, I have to have Spring on the show. And I'm so, so grateful that you're on here today. Thank you so much. You have
Yes.
a really important message for all of us women out there. And I'm super glad to share that with everybody and get your word out there. So let's start with your journey. You made the bold move to retire yourself from your corporate role at 28, and that is incredible. What shifted you that made you take that leap?
Basically, I was working there for about 5 years at the time. I had worked my way up the corporate ladder, so I started as a on-call part-time float receptionist. So I barely had a job there. Like someone legitimately had a call off of work for me to have a job that day. And but I was somebody that I came from really humble beginnings. My mom worked 4 or 5 jobs like most of my life. So she always taught me that don't be afraid to start at the bottom and work your way up. And so that's what I had intentions on. And by the time I finished my career there, I was in executive administration there for the pharmacy department, and I was really, really proud of what I was doing there. But I also realized that there was so much more that I could be doing with my voice. I realized that I was sitting there and I'm like, man, I'm sitting here helping these people build their company. I could be building my own dream and my own company. And so I realized that I needed to just let my faith kick in and start allowing myself to trust, what God was trying to do in my life. And the fact that, my journey didn't necessarily look like everyone else's in my family. That was a little scary at first. But I realized that, helping families to protect their income and help them to eliminate their debt and to really multiply their wealth, that was something that was really important to me. And so we decided to start the Max Life Agency. And then from there, we started helping others to retire themselves as well, like we did. So
I love it. I love it. Yeah, finding your purpose is so important to finding your place in the world. Once you find what your purpose, what God wants you to be doing, it's pretty easy then to, when you have faith and you have vision, it's easy to make that next step into wherever God wants you to be. I feel like that you definitely stepped into that in a place of faith. And I love that.
thank you.
What was your first step in transforming your own financial story into a movement that now impacts so many others?
My first step, I'd say, is just really allowing myself to understand the importance of being true to me. And really understanding how to build my own foundation and understanding how to allow faith to really lead me to do that was something that was really, really important to me. For me, it was just, asking myself, about the things that I had questions about and trying to understand, okay, if I have these questions and I have these issues, and I know so many people are like me sitting in this situation, if I can go and figure out the answers and be the solution. I really truly believe I heard Miles Monroe say one time that God has created you to be the answer to a question that is asked in your generation. And so I started looking for the question that was was being asked that I could be the answer to. And I think that you start off by realizing that you have the question. And then once you start answering it, then you realize that you want to answer for more people. And so that was really I think the stepping stones for me. I was really, I was married before my first husband. My first husband passed away. I found myself in a position of having children, being a single mom, and then not knowing anything about finances. And so I realized there were so many people that would find themselves in that situation. And so as I dug myself out of it, my husband and I, we decided to open, as we were, friends and dating later on, we decided to open up our business together and to really help empower people in this area. So I would say that's how for me, and just really teaching people the things that they have everyday questions to. How do I retire? Where do I put my money? How do I grow my money? How do I position myself to educate myself when there's so much information out there? Like, what do I trust? Where do I go? And so we decided to do that, and also to create an ecosystem of people to give access to, so that people have a easier opportunity to answer those questions for themselves.
I love it. Finances are complex. I find myself going, okay, let's look at I found myself talking to ChatGPT this morning. What's the difference between a self-directed Roth IRA? If I wanted to have an investment for real estate, like vehicle I can do that with. It was talking about like self-directed 401ks, all these things. Like there's all these terms, and it's like, okay, so who can you go to when you need those questions answered? It's you, Spring. You guys can do that, right?
Absolutely, absolutely,
Because I
and
feel like chat can take you so far, and you can be, okay, now I have the right words, but like, how do you even do this stuff? You can learn a lot from ChatGPT, but then you really need people.
yes, exactly, exactly, and then it's drilling down to which people and who is the best for my situation, because everybody has their own, financial picture, and it's almost like having all of these puzzle pieces scattered all across the place, and you're trying to look for your one little piece and how it fits into your puzzle to make your full financial picture. And so for us, we just are really passionate about helping people find their puzzle pieces and getting to the right people that has that piece for them and putting the whole thing together at once.
I love that. So that is amazing. So you really created an ecosystem that can help people with all of the aspects of finance. I love that. You talk a lot about alignment. How did faith and purpose guide your decisions during the transition?
For me, I feel like faith is really my foundation. I have always had trust, that purpose is always going to pay more than position. And so if you're in a position without purpose, then you're going to be fruitless. And so if you want to be fruitful, you have to understand, like, why am I here? What is God directed and planted my feet here for? What reason, right? And God doesn't ever give vision without provision. And so I think that he really requires us to have that obedience first. And he's always going to require you to position yourself to do something that maybe is scary, or that is uncomfortable, to step out and to walk in obedience. And so for me, every step of that transition, it required prayer, it required patience, it required perspective. I decided really early on not to chase money, but to really just be chasing meaning, and in that, understanding that that was what I was doing, that's when things really started to multiply for us. And so I'm super grateful that we've had that foundation and that clarity, and that we understand like what our solid rock foundation is on.
Yes, love that. Yes, totally. Purpose over money all the time. Because if you're chasing dollars, I just feel like it's never really seems like that's not how you make money. I've
Right,
seen it my whole life. I'm 46 years old, and I've seen people chase dollars and it doesn't work. But when you follow purpose and you're in a place of passion and purpose and faith, and you're doing things for the right reason, it just happens. That's when it's happened for me in my life. So I
right.
love that mindset shift of, finding the purpose first. The why. The why am I doing
Exactly.
this is so big. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
absolutely.
Your why is going to connect you to everything. You know, your why is gonna be why you keep getting up, why you keep pushing when things get hard, why you sustain, right? And so if you don't have clarity on that, then you probably are not going to be able to have longevity. And so that's why it's super important to have that foundational understanding.
I
That's
love it. I love it. That's so good. You're so wise, Spring. Love it. So you've said that money is a tool for freedom, not
Mhm.
just wealth. Could you unpack what that means to you?
Yeah, so I think that money it really just is a multiplier of who you are. Right? And so, it's really an understanding of the tool that it is and not having it be a distraction for you. Because I think some people, they're chasing money. They have no idea why, maybe it's just for things or whatever, but there's never going to be any fulfillment of that. Right. And so I think that when you say like freedom, it's really important to understand that that's really the freedom of ability to make choices not based off of survival but based off of vision. And so when you want to have financial freedom, it's because you're in a position to carry out a vision. And I believe that you are blessed according to the answers that you are solving. The bigger the vision, the more people that can fit into it, the more that your blessings create blessings for other people, that's the more that you're going to be blessed and given to. And so I think it's that true wealth is just really when money is working not just with you, but also for you. And so we want to always position people to understand like what is your vision, where are you going, and help people to understand how they can turn that annual income into a monthly income stream, so that we can help them to strategize to build out their legacy and to build out their vision and to build out whatever it is that they're called to do. Because freedom is not just about having everything, it's about having options. And then when you have those options, knowing what to do with them. So that's a really important step. But I think that we sometimes skew that freedom and what financial freedom is for. It's not for me to be able to eat crab legs whenever I want, although that's also awesome. It's about, the freedom to change lives and the freedom to do things that are going to leave impact.
Absolutely. And that's what it's been about for me. I honestly have to say, finding a place where I found my purpose, and now I'm in a place where I've found that the impact part of my life, where I'm like, now I'm in the legacy and impact part of my life. And there's something really beautiful about being in this place now and doing things because I want to do them for society. I want to make the world a better place. I want to shine a light on women. I want to help women rise and elevate and find a place of equality for all of us. And for the women listening who might still feel disempowered by money or intimidated by financial planning, where can they start?
I think awareness. I think that for women, a lot of times we are so wrapped up in the area of finance in shame, that we're not able to get to awareness. And so I think there's that block that we have to understand, but we also have to know that the obstacle is the way, right? Shout out Ryan Holiday. It's a great book, but you know,
We'll
but
put that in the show notes. We'll link that book.
right, but you have to know that like having awareness that if you have an obstacle there, don't have shame around it, go get educated, right? Sometimes when you look at numbers, they tell a story, right? And so you have to surround yourself with people who speak wealth fluently, and you have to understand like, okay, what is my story telling me? Where is the direction of my life going? And it like my story is not just going to drastically change without there being a plot twist, right? And so the twist is having the right people that can help you. You don't need to know everything. You just need to be connected to the right people and that might have the right systems and mentorship that can help you get where you're trying to go. And so that's exactly why we built, the Max Life Agency. That's why we built the Legacy Lab so that we can help people to find a safe space and a place where they can learn, where they can ask questions, where they can grow their confidence and where they have a lot of clarity. And so I believe confidence increases when clarity is there. And so that's the most important thing. Get clarity, Don't be afraid to ask questions and don't feel like you have to know everything. I know some of the most wealthy people that I know, they have the most questions. And so it's not like some people are afraid to ask because they feel like they're supposed to already know. And that's not a reality, right? So it's like, don't be afraid to ask no matter where you are. If you're in a position of you've already gotten yourself in a ton of debt and you're trying to figure it out, or you have a ton of money and you feel ashamed that you don't know what to do with it, whatever the case, just stop walking in shame and start walking in awareness.
I love it. I love it, Spring. Yeah, education is everything, and then being surrounded. I always said, I don't know something, I'm gonna hire somebody who does know that thing.
Right.
That's been
Right.
the secret to my success is, I don't need to know everything. I don't need to know how to do everything. I just need to know somebody who can do that thing or knows that thing that I don't know how to
Exactly.
do.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna reinvent the wheel. So financial planners, we need to go talk to financial planners. Someone like you is a financial planner. Is that the word? If we're gonna teach the girls a word?
Yes, but I think that like I was talking about those puzzle pieces,
Yeah.
there's a lot of different pieces to that puzzle. You might have a financial planner, you might have an insurance broker, you might have, somebody that's helping you with investments, you might have a real estate broker. There's different people that work within that puzzle, and that's why I like our ecosystem that we created with Legacy Lab. It creates a space for all of those different people, because that's the thing that's hard is that everybody that's is an expert in their area, so they only speak the language of their piece. And so our thing is like trying to give you a palatable entryway into understanding and having introductions into relationships of everywhere, of everybody that you might need to know. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of things that get left off of the table when you talk about finances. People already, they always think, oh, financial planner, oh, they think I need to put my money into investments or I need to do a saving or a 401k or something like that. But a lot of times, insurance products, annuities, that kind of stuff gets left off of the table. And it's a really important piece to your financial picture as well. Or you're thinking of retirement or whatever, or real estate. There's just so many pieces that sometimes get left off of that picture. So just talk to people. I'm happy to be that person. I'll fall on the sword for you. No. But
Yay.
it's just someone that you trust, that you can reach out to start asking questions, and just get those answers. That's the most important thing. Take a step at a time. That's the biggest thing. You can't eat an elephant in a day. You have to take it a bite at a time. So that's the biggest thing.
I love it. I love it. I think so many women feel, I do think we feel, we do feel ashamed because we really haven't had this kind of education. We haven't stood around on the golf courses and talked about our financial planners like the guys do. And I really want to open that world up to women and say, hey, no, let's have these kinds of conversations. If we know somebody awesome like Spring, let's, share that information. Let's make sure we have the resources to improve and elevate ourselves because if we make money and we don't have good tax strategies or we don't have good investment strategies or we don't have good insurance, any of that stuff can take us down. And it's sad, but I was just hearing a statistic that the largest growing population of homeless people are are senior aged women.
Wow. That's
That's
really,
sad.
really off-putting. That's so sad, especially because it can really be prevented. But you're right. A lot of times, financial literacy, it feels like it's a man's world, and so we have to show up for each other, and that's why I love that you have this podcast because we have to show up for each other and learn how to manage manage our finances and our things and the things that are important to us. And it's crazy because with that being one statistic, the other statistic is understanding that women outlive men, right? And so a lot of times women are actually the largest inheritors of wealth. But unfortunately, because the financial planner and the person that their husband, set up with, they weren't sitting in those meetings. They don't necessarily trust those people. Their husbands might have, because men are typically more aggressive when it comes to the way that they want to grow or spend their money. Women are a lot more conservative. And so sometimes they don't know that they trust that person or they don't want to continue doing things the same way that their husbands did. And so that's where we have to start as well, is like educate yourself before you need to understand these things because there's a lot, like you would be surprised how many housewives there are in the world or how many women that are even partners in business with their spouse but they just have no idea about the financial side. And so that is the biggest piece that we have to close the gap for is helping you understand different products, different vehicles, different things that you can utilize where you can still grow your money, but you can do it in a conservative way. You don't have to have risk. You don't have to position yourself to lose any money. But people think when investment or growing their money comes into play, that that means automatically I have to take on some risk. But that's just not the case. It's just the only thing that we've really been taught about. And that's what I'm really passionate about teaching people about is conservative ways that they can grow their money with safety and making sure that they are never going to position themselves to lose principal. And so of course, I'm a woman. That's something that I'm passionate about is making sure that we have those sound things that we are positioning ourselves and our money into as well. So
I love that. I love that so much. And what are some of the most common limiting beliefs that you see women carrying around money, and how do we rewrite those?
I think that we are kind of like it's not said, but there's kind of like a unknown of like women you shouldn't be talking about finances or money or you're doing too much if you're trying to get involved. Proverbs says that wisdom is what builds a house, right? And so we want to make sure that we are building a financial house and we're building it on the right foundation. So we have to start talking about it. We have to understand stewardship, and understanding stewardship is not just spiritual, it's also in our finances. It's the way that we live our life, it's the way that we manage ourselves. And so the belief that money is evil is, I think, also an issue that we have as women, or that somehow success means selfishness or something like that. That's something that we have to kind of get past and understand that success is important and it's what God wants for us. He wants us to have abundance so that we can do more for other people. The other thing I think that is a limiting belief for women is that there's just an understanding that, oh, we are all frivolous. Oh, we just shop too much. Or, oh, we just, do all of these things. And we don't have to subscribe to that. Like I have this saying that I always say to people is like, only fools pay full price, right? And it's like
Yes.
you can have nice things, you can do things, in a certain way and live a certain type of life, but do it in a budget and a money smart way. Do it in a way that makes sense for you. I challenge women to rewrite that and realize that wealth is really just it's the important thing when it's in the right hands, right? And that's what heals our community. And most of us have a big heart for the community. Most women are compassionate and loving and want to change things for people. But if you don't have the finances, if you don't have the means, then you can't do much, right? And so
Yeah.
it's just a magnifier. Like I said earlier, it just reveals who you already are. And so if you are a good-hearted person, if you're somebody that you want to change things in your life, in your world, or in the world of others, then you have to get on the track of understanding. And so I think just taking that limiting belief off of like, I can't do this, or, I've never done it before. No one in my family's ever been wealthy. So that means I can't. You have to take those limiting beliefs off and just let yourself take like be ruthless, right? Not ruthless, but ruthless.
Oh, I like it. I love it. I know, and I feel like there's a bossiness, this like, oh, if you get involved with the finances, you're being bossy. And I feel
Mm,
like within the relationship, I think that that's something that I personally feel like that would be something that I need to overcome. And I feel like
mhm.
probably there are other women out there that feel the same way. And it's, you know,
Yeah. I
yeah.
I see that a lot with women, especially when it comes to leadership. We are like for a lot of the same things that a woman would do versus a man. It's like a man is like considered to be a leader, a boss, this, and then other women we get another four-letter B word, not boss. you know? But I think that it's just taking the sting out of those words and just realizing you don't have to own what somebody like what other people think about you is none of your business. If you know that you have a good heart and you're doing things for a cause and a purpose, and that's why your why and your purpose have to be really strong foundationally, because then those things don't matter. It doesn't matter what other people think or what they say. Obviously, I'm going to move with compassion, but I'm also going to be stern. I can't be a pushover. I can't, allow myself to just be the sweetest pie person. There's a time and a place for everything. And when you're, running a business or running a company or trying to change people's lives, leading people, they're not always going to like you. There's going to be moments that are uncomfortable. You're going to have to challenge people. And so you just have to stop being afraid of that and what other people might think when you're doing that, because you have to understand that if you're in a position of leadership and you're in a position of like power and all of those things, that's in your design. And so the reason why you have all of those flooded thoughts coming in is because it's a ploy of the enemy that's trying to get you to walk outside of your purpose and continue to be a follower when you are called to be a leader. And so none of that is reality. You have to realize that, sometimes you might think that there's, 1,000 frogs out there, but it's just one standing in the back by the window that's really, really loud, and it's like you can't be worried about shaping your life and your purpose around what somebody else's vision is, right? When God already gave you one to shape it around.
I love that. I love it. Spring, you're awesome. So you and Curtis leave together as a couple and a family. What have you learned about balancing vision, leadership, and marriage?
Ooh, that's a loaded question.
Mhm.
I think that, a lot of people think that there's a difference. I think that all of it is kind of foundationally the same, right? Leading is leading is leading, whether that's leading in your marriage, leading your children, leading your business, leading in your finances, leading is leading. And that's why I think it's that saying of like how you do anything is how you do everything is just a real thing, right? But you have to learn to lead from your partnership and not position, because sometimes like it may be like, oh, one person's making more money than the other, or one person is, in this certain role, and it's like, no, 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 we have to be partnership minded and realize that like we were put together because we're the yin and the yang of each other, and we both bring something that's important to the table, and I don't need to be you and you don't need to be me, and we don't need to step all over each other's toes. Like we can just coexist and be powerful in our own roles. And so I think Curtis and I have kind of understood that, and that our marriage is our first ministry. Our family is our first ministry. If we win the world and we lose each other, then we lost, right? That's not legacy. And so for us, we want to make sure that we are consistently growing our business intentionally, but also making sure that we're growing our family and our intentionality and our marriage and our love and all of those things even more intentionally, right? So we schedule business meetings, we schedule our soul meetings, we come together and we do our check-ins with each other. We have family meetings, and so we put this stuff on our calendar. Like it is like a clockwork, right? So these things cannot be put off. I treat my date night the same way I treat a multi-million dollar client on my schedule. I'm not moving it. Right? Because that is my first ministry. And so I think when you practice like protecting your peace the same way that you try to protect your business or your marriage, then you realize that you will have that fruit that comes from it. And we try to lead by example. Like we're not perfect at all. No one is, right? I think that when we show people that we're not perfect and we just keep picking up and trying to get better every single day, and we help our team and our agents and the people that we lead understand, that home alignment just as important. I think that really helps people to have a holistic approach in their life. And so, we also really are big about teaching our children about wealth and about stewardship. And we're very big about making sure that our kids see us build and pray, all of those things. And we see wealth and leadership the same way.
So, how do you teach your children about wealth, purpose, and stewardship and not just success?
So we're very big on teaching our kids about stewardship and making sure that they understand their like responsibility and that they see it as a seed. So for us it's not just like this scorecard of finance and like, how much money can you make, but it's also how much can you give. It's also how much can you grow? What are you doing with your money? And so every dollar has an assignment in our household, and we teach our kids that as well. So they have different they each have their different savings accounts, and like, they know that their first 10% is going to go to God. They have different goals that they might have that they're saving for, and for them to do that, because we let them earn, we let them understand saving, and then also sewing. And I think that that sewing piece is the most important, because I think some of us teach our kids earning and savings, but we don't teach them sewing. And that's the piece that creates harvest, right? And so we have to understand that sewing, whether definitely into church, into different things, philanthropy, that's important to us. But that's how we inherit assets as well, right? When we're sewing into investments or different things like that, or putting our money into, private equity firms or whatever it is, even if it's at a small rate, we want to teach them how to start to do that and let them not just inherit our wealth, but inherit our wisdom. And that's the most important thing.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. It's such an important part. It's something that I always talk to my kids about is you don't want to eat the seeds. You
Correct.
want to plant the seeds and eat the fruit. That's a really basic principle of money that I learned in my very early 20s. And it's like, ooh, if you have a little bit of capital, if you can invest that capital and then you can live off the monthly income that comes in from that capital, now you're living off the fruit. And it's
Yes.
just one simple little visual to show the kids how to live with money.
Right, exactly. It's never too early to start. It's like, I mean, literally my 3-year-old, it's like we give her, 4 quarters, and it's like, okay, you have to make sure that you give 1 quarter to the church. Like when we're at church, okay, you got to put this, the rest is yours. These are things that, like, when you grow up with certain mindsets, then it's just who you are. It's just what you do. So I think it's important for us to keep that in mind and not think that they have to be an adult to teach them, because by then they probably already started making bad habits. Right.
Yeah, I was reading a statistic that most people's money minds are developed. Your ideas about money have been developed by the time you're 8 years old.
Mhm. Yep. Your
So, what
financial
we're
blueprint.
yes. Yes, my daughter asked us to write a children's book for her, by the way. She
Oh,
said
wow.
little kids need to learn about finances, and she said, "Mommy, can you and Spring write me a children's book?"
I
I
love
said,
that.
"I'll
Let's
ask
do
Spring."
it. I'm so down. Let's do that for sure.
She so loves the podcast. She's such a cutie. But yeah, I was telling her what we were going to be talking about today, and she said, "Wow, that's really cool, Mommy." She's 4.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I'm gonna go steal her.
You would love her. She's a cutie. So yeah, I do think, the younger we teach our kids about these things, having a children's book about these things, because you're developing your ideas about money at such a young age. Really, from birth to age 8, you're developing all of these ideas. Is money evil? Is money good? Is money fun? Is money bad? All of these ideas will then shape your perceptions of money for the rest of your life until you can become conscious of those ideas and rewrite them as needed.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting because, like, we don't realize that we get our money blueprint from our family. Like, and so often we are wondering why, like, families and generations kinda stay around the same. There might be 1 or 2 that kinda, like, pop out a little bit, but for the most part, everybody kinda stays the same because we're not seeking new information. We're just recycling the same information that everybody has had in our family for decades. That's where it's important. Those people that kinda, like, pop out and change and break those generational curses of finance, those are the things that people are seeking, right? And so when you add education, then you grow.
Absolutely, I love it. So tell me, the Legacy Lab is such a powerful concept. What does legacy mean to you, and how can women begin building theirs now, regardless of where they're starting?
Ooh, that's super good. Legacy is really the imprint that your obedience leaves on the world. It's what your obedience, it's the fruit that it carries, right? So it's what outlives you. It's the thing that is bigger than you, right? So you don't need millions to start to build one. You just need intention, intentionality, and obedience, right? And so when you start with protecting your family, then multiply your resources, and then teach others to do the same. It's really that simple, and that's why we built the Legacy Lab, because we want to help people do that. And Legacy Lab is, it is obviously a lot with finance, but one of our pillars is faith. And so teaching people to have faith, in God, have faith in themselves, have faith in their purpose, and having that full alignment and that full circle there. So, faith is something that is free. It's free, but it also has a high cost, right? Because to have faith, you have to give up something. And so you have to be willing to give up your fear. You have to be willing to give up what's comfortable. And so, but it's also free for us to do. And so, to give everybody and give people access to systems, and to give people an understanding of how to give up those fears, for their freedom, and for that's what legacy is for us. And so legacy is not just something that you leave behind, it's just something that you live out loud as well. And so that's the biggest thing, is like understanding what is it that you want to encompass, who do you want to be, and what do you want people to remember long after you're gone. And so that's what I pray that Max Life Agency, that the Legacy Lab, that, our endangered species, all of those different things, I pray that these things, these messages far outlive us.
Yeah, I love it. When I tapped into legacy, it's really when my life changed. It's when
Mhm.
I was able to finish my book. It
Wow.
took that tapping into that faith energy, that legacy, that this is something that is bigger than me, bigger than my lifetime, and something that God wants me to do. And it really having that, the idea of legacy allowed me to do a lot more than what I would have been capable of doing without it. It's a very powerful
100%.
tool. Very
Yes,
powerful. Yeah,
yes.
very. So you've led Diary of a Believer for over a decade. This is a beautiful testament to consistency and calling. How has that shaped your leadership?
So Diary of a Believer is a like prayer line basically that I started years ago, and it's really a grounding space for me. It started off as, my husband and I, we had this goal, and we decided to go on a fast, and some people that, it within our organization, they decided to join us, and we were praying and fasting, and so it started off as almost like this little like personal journal of accountability, to like stay on our fast and to stay focused, and to know like that we're doing something God driven, right? Like we're seeking that purpose, that legacy, that all of those things. Then it started to become bigger. People started to want to join in, and it became more of a movement, to refuse to separate success from spirituality. And so that's something that I am super, super proud of, because I think that our world kind of makes us feel like we have to have all these different compartments of ourselves, and that spirituality only belongs in one specific compartment, and that's at church, and that's at home before you go to bed, and that's, in your private space before you eat, your little prayer closet, and that's that. It's only put away and tucked away into this certain space. And I don't believe that. I believe that some people are meant to spread the gospel or be ministers in church, and some people, like, we are all supposed to just, our life is supposed to show fruit of our spirituality. It just reminds me that, leadership isn't just about, it's not about titles, it's about testimony. It's about giving what God has changed for you and what He's changed in your life. And, when people hear your testimony, a lot of times they realize that, like, when you're transparent about what you've been through, people realize, like, wow, oh, they're just like me, because when people start to receive certain levels of success in their lives, somehow these pedestals and these blockades start happening, and people think like, oh, they're just this special being from God, like I could never do what they do. And it's not true. Every single one of us, we all start the same way, we all come from the same place. And so, I think that transparency is really important, and it influences real change in people's lives. As I started the Diary of a Believer, it was really just my journey of like exploring the Bible and really just learning, how to be open and allowing my lived experience through the week to the lessons that I learned and the things that I realized that God was trying to show me through things like, oh, I forgot my phone, wasn't plugged up. I put it on the cord, but the charger wasn't in the wall. Like there's a message in that, and to start to see the messages, like, we might think we're plugged in, but are we really plugged into the source? Are we allowing the power to really flow through us of what God is trying to give into our lives? So it's just certain things like that that kind of started it, and it started to elevate, and now, I'm just so blessed for where we are today, and all of the people's lives that it's touched and changing.
That's amazing. Where can people find Diary of a Believer?
I post on our Meet the Eatmans on our Instagram. And then I have also a prayer line number that is also that you can go into our little links on there and see the prayer line number. I also post it every week on there after. I recently started posting it. It's always been a just like a call, but I recently started feeling the conviction of like, okay, I need to bring this over to social media. So now I literally record it and I post it, so you can go on to Meet the Eatmans on Instagram or Facebook or any of those platforms, and you can find it there.
That's so cool. So, how do you keep your faith strong while running multiple businesses and being a mom of four?
I just feel like grace is rhythm. It's not me, it's grace. Like, it's like, I need it, I give it, I need it, I give it. Like, it's like that's
Yeah.
where we are. And so, and I just really have learned to just allow everything that I do to flow in honesty in where I am. I'm not afraid to apologize to my kids, to apologize to, people that if I make a mistake or do something wrong. Like, I am not ran or powered by perfection. Like, I understand that I am just a product of grace. And so, I just allow myself to understand that, have God intentionality in everything, keeping in mind not separating and trying, like, 'cause sometimes you start to compartmentalize things in your life, trying to keep that flow of like everything, and integrate every piece of my life and allow God to flow into every part of my life. And the Holy Spirit is just really my strategist. Like, some people, they go off of market data, I go off of divine downloads. Like, that's just how it is for me. And
I
that
get it.
that balance, it just comes by prioritizing having presence with God and not allowing the pressures of the world to really overtake you.
Oh, I love it. Love it. What role does prayer or spiritual practice play in your decision making as a leader?
Ooh, everything. Like, when I tell you I don't move, like, I am doing nothing without, first of all, inviting God into that space, because he's a gentleman. He's not going to just show up in every area, right? Just because you have God in your life, if you haven't invited him into your business, he may not go over there. So you have to be intentional about inviting God and creating an atmosphere and allowing him to dwell in every part of your life. And so prayer, it is my literal business plan. Like I said, like, I don't move until I have peace. I don't move until I feel like I've had an answer. I don't let people push me or pressure me to move, faster than it's like, hey, if you need an answer before that, then this just isn't for me if I haven't heard from God. And that's okay, right? Because I want to be careful not to move out of what God has directed me to do. In the Bible it says, in all your ways acknowledge him, right? And so for me, that means, slowing down long enough to listen, to really acknowledge that he's a presence and he's present in everything that I'm doing. And sometimes I've had to turn down opportunities, and there's things that sometimes you see and it's like, but everything good is not good for me, because I only want to work within what is in my assignment and my alignment. And so if I'm out of alignment, then because I'm trying to do everything good, then I end up doing bad, right? And so it's like you have to
Yes.
stay clear on what your yeses should be so that you know what your nos are.
Yes, love it. Love it. Yeah, because you really can't. It's not everything is ours to do. There's
Yeah.
plenty of us to do the work as long as we're all doing the work. That's
Yes. And
God
just
gives you.
knowing that, like, peace is the real profit. Like, that's the
Yes.
real profit. Like, income, money, like, fiat, great, but peace, that's the profit. That's the real profit that you gain, and you only get that when you allow God to flow in your life.
I love it. I love it. So when you look back at your 28-year-old self, what would
Mhm.
you tell her now?
Ooh, I'm like, I could almost get emotional with that question.
Mhm.
I would say stop shrinking. Stop shrinking, that you were chosen for this. Every setback is a setup for strategy. and that God is gonna use everything. I think that I had a really hard time being obedient to God in certain areas of my life because he was calling me to bigger than I saw myself. One of my good friends, Mark Aceta, he's amazing, trainer and things. And he says, you see that everybody's seen that picture where, there's a little kitten looking at a lion in the mirror. And he says, well, I was a lion seeing my reflection as a kitten. And I feel like I was definitely that person. And so I would say, start to see yourself bigger than where you are. Don't rush the process. Let God build your character before you start building a company, and trust that all of these things will align and everything will work for your good.
I love it. I love it. So, how would you define true wealth today beyond money?
I think that true wealth is it's something that you can't purchase, to be
Mhm.
honest. It's not about money. It's about peace, that I've been talking about a lot.
Yeah.
It's about love that doesn't have condition. True wealth is about walking in your purpose, the things that kind of wake you up in the morning before the alarm clock. True wealth is it's a path of overflow in every area of your life. So I would say God designs and he's clear on what he's designing. He knows like how everything works and how it should be moving and all of those things. And so I think that we just have to allow his provision to chase us down sometimes and not think that we have to create everything. Sometimes you will walk into a place of provision that like things were already built for you before you even got there, right? But you just have to trust that, and you have to know that like, sometimes you have to choose your peace, and then you might think you're missing out on something, but then you walk into a place of provision. So wealth is when your impact can outlast your income.
Yes. Ooh, I love that. Put that on a shirt. And what's next for you and the Legacy Lab? What's the bigger vision that's calling you forward?
I think that for us, it's merging faith, finance, freedom, all of these things that are like super duper important to us, and just reaching more people. Right now, we are in a position where we're getting ready to host our annual breast cancer awareness event. If you're interested in donating to that, that's also on Meet the Eatmans or Spring Eatmon on my Instagram or my Facebook. I have the links there as well. Last year, we were able to raise $15,000 for a woman who was in the current fight of breast cancer. So that's something that's super important to us is helping people, philanthropy, teaching people about their finances, growing, and just finding the people that are assigned to us and fulfilling those assignments. We are very, very big about creating passive income for people, very big on, launching master classes for couples right now. My husband and I, we also have that as well to help people to understand how to integrate their marriage and their life and their businesses and all of these things, and building that legacy together and expanding Max Life into some new markets as well. So the ultimate goal, I think, is just to, make generational wealth and legacy a household norm. And so that's obviously not something we can do on our own, but we're going to do our part to make sure that we can help people do that.
I love it. Where can we find your classes for couples?
So Meet the Eatmans. So
Yes.
we have a YouTube it's called Meet the Eatmans Endangered Species Podcast. So you can find the link there. You can also, or wherever podcasts are listened to, you can listen to it there. We also have on Meet the Eatmans on Instagram, Facebook, and all the different places. You can also find our information there as well.
Fantastic. Spring, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your light with us today. Your story reminds us that financial empowerment isn't just about numbers, it's about alignment, faith, and freedom. You've shown us that legacy begins in how we show up today, in our families, our businesses, and our beliefs in what's possible. For those listening, you could connect with Spring and explore her work more at Meet the Eatmans podcast on YouTube. And she also has a links.co/Spring Eatman, which we'll put in the notes below. And if this episode spoke to you, share it with a woman who's ready to step into her next level of purpose and prosperity. And as always, thank you for listening to the Manage Her. Keep managing you, girls. Thanks,
Yes.
Spring.
Thank you for having me. This was amazing.
Living in the moment.